Hi, Donna. Hi, Sue. Hey, Sharon and Keith, Tom. Hello, Aunt Reva. Evening, chat. There's the Skivers. Hi, Randy and Betty. I talked to your pastor the other day. Carolyn, Ron, good to have you. Brenda Mays. Hi, Miss Austin. We got a couple of minutes yet till 6. Hey, Dakota. I assume that's probably you and Mackenzie. Hi, Rosie. Hi, Missy. Todd and Heather, good to have you tonight. Hi, Lisa. Good to have you and Bill this evening. You stand on your roof, you might just about be able to see me. Hello, Linda Kay. Beautiful day. Yes, it is. Hi, Keith. Yeah, looking at the thermometer out here, I think it's a little over 60 degrees. Sun's shining. Finally got to park for my mower, so this afternoon, when we get done this evening, I'm going to go fix the mower deck. Woohoo! Missy, if you're going to go up on the roof now, you know them boys will be right there with you. All right, it just clicked 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Our text this evening is Psalm 67, verse 6. Then shall the earth yield her increase, and God, even our own God, shall bless us. Hey, Andrea Wells. Spurgeon kind of zones in on the last little bit of that verse, God, even our own God. This is what Spurgeon has to say. It is strange how little use we make of the spiritual blessings which God gives us. But it is stranger still how little use we make of God himself. Though he is our own God, as the psalmist said, we apply ourselves but little to him and ask but little of him. How seldom do we ask counsel at the hands of the Lord? How often do we go about our business without seeking his guidance? In our troubles, how constantly do we strive to bear our burdens ourselves instead of casting them upon the Lord, that he may sustain us? This is not because we may not, for the Lord seems to say, I am thine, soul. Come and make use of me as thou wilt. Thou mayest freely come to my store, and the oftener the more welcome. It is our own fault if we make not free with the riches of our God. Then, since thou hast such a friend, and he invites thee, draw from him daily. Never want whilst thou hast a God to go to. Never fear or faint whilst thou hast God to help thee. Go to thy treasure and take whatever thou needest. There is all that thou canst want. Learn the divine skill of making God all things to thee. He can supply thee with all, or better still, he can be to thee instead of all. Let me urge thee then to make use of thy God. Make use of him in prayer. Go to him often, because he is thy God. Or wilt thou fail to use so great a privilege? Fly to him. Tell him all thy wants. Use him constantly by faith at all times. If some dark providence has beclouded thee, use thy God as a sun. If some enemy has beset thee, then find in Jehovah a shield, for he is a sun and a shield to his people. If thou hast lost thy way in the mazes of life, use him as a guide, for he will direct thee. Whatever thou art and wherever thou art, remember God is just what thou wantest, and just where thou wantest, and that he can do all that thou wantest. Spurgeon's overarching point this evening is how often we fail to take full advantage of what we have in Christ. In our relationship with him, we have someone that we can depend on, someone that we can go to in our times of trouble, someone that we can go to in our hour of need, whatever that need may be. We can go to him when we are stressed out. We can go to him when our burdens get so heavy upon us that they're hard for us to bear. Casting our care on him, allow him to care for us. And yet, all too often as Christians, we fail to do that. If we do finally go to Christ, it's usually as the last option when we have exhausted every other possibility. I know in my own life, I'm one of those people that has a tendency to try to go through things alone, to deal with it on your own so as not to bother others. But we need to stop thinking of taking our cares and burdens to God as bothering him with with what's going on in our life. God is not bothered by our needs. As a matter of fact, he has provided himself for all of our needs so that we have someone to go to. I love the fact that Spurgeon says he can supply all thy wants, and even better yet, he can become the wants that we have. He can become our wants instead. I think all of it brings together a kind of a picture that we've really been trying to paint the last few days. And that picture is that we are living far below our privilege in God, in Christ. That we do far too much on our own power and end up sometimes in awful situations, not because God has forsaken us, sometimes not even because we've necessarily done anything wrong, but because we fail to go to God and involve him in all aspects of our life. I know in my own situation, I can't speak for everyone else, but there are times when everything seems to go south, and suddenly I am a praying fool, constantly in prayer. The truth of the matter is, we should be that way all the time. How much do we need God? How often do we need God? Constantly and completely. We need Him all the time. And to operate without Him, to operate outside of His blessing, outside of His influence in our life, is really just asking for trouble. And yet we, like the men that Christ talked about in the New Testament, like the Apostle James talked about, yet a little while, and we'll go here and we'll go there, and on the morrow we'll do this and we'll do that, and we'll go into this city and do business, and then we'll go to this city and do business, when we should be saying, should the Lord will it, then we will do it. Now, I don't think that's a literal statement that everything we think about doing in the future, that we should say, well, Lord willing, beforehand. I don't think it's a legalistic view of that at all. But I do think that in every decision we make, we should include God. Because usually the time that we include Him is at the end of it, or at the point where it doesn't work out the way we want to. And then we go to God with our arms stretched out wide and say, why did this happen to me? What is up with this? And I feel at times that were He standing before us, He would say something like, how am I supposed to know? You didn't involve me in any of this decision. This was totally your thing, man. You didn't want me involved in this. When in truth and reality, He can be involved in everything, in every decision, in everything that we do. And all of it really adds up to a very sad truth. And that sad truth is that we could have God's input, God's blessing, God's direction in our life. It's there for the asking. And yet, like in the message yesterday in the devotional last night, we just simply forget about it. We cast it aside and we go on with our own thing. Let us become a people of prayer. Let us become a people who take everything to God. Everything. Every decision. Every problem. Every weight. Everything that maybe we lay awake in bed and think about at night. Let us take to Him everything that we are and everything that we wish to be. Everything that we wish we weren't. I don't know, maybe you've pretty well become who you want to be, but there's a lot of parts of me that there are certain ways I wish I weren't. Certain things that I do that I wish I didn't. Certain attitudes I have that I wish I didn't have. Let's take those things to Him. Let's get Him involved in our lives. Get Him involved in our decision making. Casting some of our responsibility and our cares onto Him. Nay, casting all of our responsibility and all of our cares on Him. Because He is prepared, willing, and more than able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we could ever ask or need. And so to fail to do that is really failing to have something, to take advantage of something that is there for the offering. Reminded me of when I first started working at the telephone company. A gentleman that I worked with named Jimmy, he was one of the guys that helped me get my CDL, and he was a union steward, helped me kind of get settled in there at the phone company, good man. And he and I were talking about the fact that I was about to get a raise. Now, this is almost 30 years ago now when I was starting off as a lineman at the telephone company. And I wasn't making a whole lot of money. I was really looking forward to that raise. It was almost $1 an hour. I mean, and dude, I was just, woohoo, you know. I was just about to top that double-digit mark, you know. It wasn't going to be long till I was making $10 an hour. I just couldn't even imagine, you know. Rich folk make $10 an hour. I was so excited, and here's what he told me to do. He said, you need to call the financial office and get them to take 6% of your check out and put it in your 401k plan. He said, but you can take up to 16%. He said, and I would recommend you take the whole 16%. He said, the company will match the first 6%. He said, and then the other 10% that you put in will just be extra. He said, but they'll match that first 6%. And I said, dude, I don't want to do that. I want my money now. I ain't putting that away. I'm 22 years old. I ain't worried about retirement. And he said, listen, if you don't at least put 6% in, he said, the company has agreed to match that. He said, that's free money. He said, if you don't at least do that, he said, you're just looking at the company going, oh, free money? Thanks, but now I'm good. Guess what? I did it. And it helped a bunch. It kept us floating when I didn't have a job for 2 years. If I'd turned that down, I would have been turning down something that was free for me to have. An extra 6% of my income. This is much the same. We're turning down something by not asking God, by not talking to God, by not taking our things to Him. We're just turning our nose up at something wonderful that's just been given to us for nothing. I mean, it was all bought with with our salvation, with His blood. It was all given to us freely. And yet, for some reason, we fail to grasp it. Let us not fail in grasping all the help and all the assistance, all the love, all the comfort, all the growth, all the wisdom and knowledge and grace that is available in our God. He is our own God. Ours. My God. I know we often use that phrase, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Just add your name in. The God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Denny Edwards. Because He is. The God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Christine Martin. The God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Aidan Skyver. That's exactly who He is. He is our own God. He belongs to us and we belong to Him. Why would we not go to Him with everything? Why would we not seek Him out for every need? Especially considering that the Creator of the universe, this most powerful being, is waiting to hear from us. Has inclined His ear to usward. Great King James way of saying that. And is waiting for us to call on Him. Hey, thanks so much for being on the porch with me this evening. I appreciate it when y'all come out, hang out on the front porch. Hopefully we're winding down on all the social distancing and we'll be able to get back together before too long. We'll decide then, I guess, whether or not to continue the porch sessions after all this is over. But nonetheless, man, I've really enjoyed spending time with you all. It's a blessing to me. I don't know if you're getting anything out of it, but I look forward to this all day long. I absolutely love spending time with you all on the front porch. Thanks so much for coming. It's such an encouragement for me when you're here. Like I said, hopefully the Lord spoke to you and you've grown. We love you. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And let's talk to the Lord a little more than we have in the past. Let's take Him, our cares, our needs, our successes and our failures, everything. Take it to the Lord, for He is our own God. Love y'all. Good night. God bless you. Good Lord willing, the creek don't rise. We'll see you tomorrow night about 6 o'clock.